Hello, friends. We're back. It's another live edition of Syracuse Sports, Syracuse basketball postgame, presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. The regular season ends, and for the second straight year, it's a losing season for Syracuse basketball. Pitt defeats the Orange 71-69 in overtime at the JMA Wireless Dome to close out the regular season and close out Red Autry's tenure as head basketball coach. In terms of the regular season, Syracuse has at least one game in the ACC tournament. They are the 14th seed. They will face SMU on Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. in Charlotte. We'll see if that is the last game for Autry as head coach overall, but we are heading down the home stretch here of the Autry era. One way or the other, one more loss, and it is over. And one of the more transformative times for Syracuse athletics will continue, and it is going to be a busy week in that department for sure. We will discuss that here on the post-game show, which will be a mixture of what we saw tonight at the JMA Wireless Dome, a fitting, appropriate way for the season to end, and I get no pleasure in saying that. It's just the way that it turned out for Syracuse. Not only that they lost in overtime, but how they lost the game in overtime, and just some, frankly, inept coaching decisions by Autry and a team that's just not ready for big moments in overtime. I mean, they fought their way back. They got the game to overtime, down by 12 at one point in the second half to Pitt, and seemingly like we're just going to kind of fade out here with a double-digit loss. They did fight back and get into overtime, which, again, I don't credit effort, but I do credit execution, and I credit a team that did fight its way to overtime. But inevitably, 15-16, 6-12 in the ACC is where this team will finish the regular season, and one more loss will end the Adrian Autry era here at Syracuse. So we will get to that. We will hear from our Syracuse Sports Insiders coming up and what you guys had to say throughout this matchup. Busy Syracuse Sports Day. The men's lacrosse team picks up a win at Johns Hopkins, 12-8. Not the cleanest day on the field for the offense, but a terrific defensive performance for them as Jimmy McCool makes 14 saves in net, and the Syracuse defense locks down Johns Hopkins. So a busy day, but the focus will be mostly on basketball and the future of Syracuse athletics here, as it is going to be a transformative week. It's been a transformative month already with Mike Haney taking over as chancellor. A new AD, I anticipate, will be announced next week, and then I would anticipate not too long after Syracuse loses in the ACC tournament, the announcement that Autry has been fired and the search will be on for a head coach. And I've been pretty clear who I think Syracuse needs to hire as their next head coach, and I will reiterate that a bit here in the post-game show. Let's get into this game, though, tonight first, and then we'll get into some of the broader issues and hear from our insiders a little bit later on, including from the secret voicemail line, which, being a Syracuse Sports Insider, gives you direct text message access to me anytime and access to the secret voicemail line, so you can get your voice heard here on the podcast. Syracuse loses in overtime, and there was an opportunity for Nate Kings to hit a shot in regulation. I don't know how that shot didn't drop. That thing was in the cylinder. It just did not go in. Nate Kings, who was a pleasure to watch this season, had 14 points in this game. And there is some news on Nate Kings, by the way. He's told us in the locker room afterwards. I believe I have some audio on this. Give me a sec to find that, guys. But he did tell us in the locker room afterwards that he is seeking another year of eligibility, and I think he's got a pretty good case to get it. Now, whether or not he would come back to Syracuse or not depends on the coaching transition and everything. I think the new coach would be certainly you would want Nate Kings on your team if he wants to come back to Syracuse for another year, but he is seeking another year of eligibility. He did tell us that in the locker room afterwards. It was Nate George who led Syracuse with 26 points, including 6 of 6 at the free throw line. Syracuse 16 of 17 at the free throw line. You'll take that because free throws matter. Are we sure Nate Kings shouldn't be the shooting guard? Is it too late to make that transition? 4 of 10 from three-point range in this game. Donnie Freeman ended up with 18. I wouldn't really necessarily qualify that as a good game for Donnie Freeman. He still gets really confused in double teams, and I don't think it's just utilized properly on this team. There was a play in overtime where the ball eventually made its way to Donnie Freeman, and the shot clock winds out as Donnie has to put up a desperation three-point shot, and Autry's got a timeout in his pocket. That's just yet another example of how this team just brain locks in key situations there. You have a timeout. You should never let the shot clock wind down in that situation, or any, frankly, but particularly in that situation. 4.3 seconds left. J.J. Starling, who I hate to say, this makes me sad that the J.J. Starling era, his senior day, and he got a nice reception from the Dome crowd, and I was happy to see that, does not score in his final home game at Syracuse. The hometown kid comes back from Notre Dame. All the expectations and the hype and the belief that Syracuse could turn things around with J.J. and Donnie Freeman coming back, and that just did not pan out. And J.J. Starling just hit the skids in the last 4 or 5 games of the season, to the point where he doesn't even score tonight, but he gets subbed in late in the game. And they're like, oh man, is J.J. Starling going to be the hero on his senior day? And the only points he scores being the winning points. He throws the inbounds pass. You sub in J.J. Starling, stone cold, has been sitting on the bench for a while, to throw the inbounds pass. And with a little over 4 seconds left, I think it was 4.3 seconds, Syracuse manages a shot basically from half court from Nate George that hits the rim, and they just could not get a playoff. So between that, letting the shot clock run out, we got some last hockey lines to enjoy, if you will, from Red, subbing in Bryce Zephyr for Nathan George, who was your best player. How much William Kyle sat in the second half before he made his way back in. Akir Swari had a nice game, but should not be on the court as long as he was. And remember, no Kyan Anthony. He was unavailable due to a lower body injury. No Sadiq White, because he was unavailable due to a shoulder injury that was suffered in Syracuse's last game. So they were not available at all. That being said, you still push Pitt to overtime and have a chance, even with 2 of your bench best players. Think about that. Think of how full circle that comes. Kyan Anthony, Sadiq White, 2 top 100 recruits that came in this year. And they end the regular season. We'll see if they play Tuesday in the ACC tournament, but end the regular season on the bench. And of course, there's questions, as there always is, about who's coming back and who's not. And those 2 are at the top of the list of players you'd like to see come back, even in a new administration next year. But we'll see how all that plays out. And with Kyan Anthony, that is obviously a very complicated discussion, given his ties to Carmelo's influence on the program, both Carmelo and Lala sitting courtside, even though Kyan Anthony was out of this game with a lower body injury, and just how that's going to play out and how much influence Melo's going to have on what this program does going forward, and if his son is going to be a part of it next year. So all that will play out in what is going to be a fascinating offseason. But in this game tonight, just an appropriate thud, just an appropriate ending of all the miscues, all the coaching miscues, all the player miscues. I'm not excusing the players here in what they can't do. And it was just what this team has been all year. Good enough to kind of push back in it, push some games to overtime, and be good enough at times to be in these games. They hit their witching hour, as they usually do, with about 13 and a half minutes to go in the second half, as I sent the note to our Syracuse Sports Insiders, but then they got back in the game. Nathan George with a great game. Donnie, I don't think had a great game, 5 of 14, but 8 of 9 at the free throw line. You'll take 18 points from him. Nate King's charging the rim. He did hit a key 3 down the stretch. He missed the one that would have won it. Again, I don't know how that ball did not go in the hoop. That thing was in. Man, that happened a couple of times on that rim tonight. I don't know if that thing was regulation or not. Think of that great scene from White Men Can't Jump. Is this regulation? What a game, but a fitting game and an appropriate game in how it ends. So now you turn the page to the future, and look, I don't root for this team to win or lose. That's not what I do. I observe, I opine. But what's the point of even playing in the ACC tournament? You're the 14 seed. You are not going to win 5 in a row to get to the NCAA tournament. And hey, if I'm wrong, clip that and shove it in my face all day, because it'll be one hell of a story, right? But that's not going to happen. This is a program that has not made it past the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament ever. Syracuse flames out early every year in the ACC tournament. They're going into the ACC tournament having lost 5 straight games. They ended the season losing 5 straight games. They're going to turn it around in 1 day's time, 2 days' time, and make a run in Charlotte. Hey, sports are sports, and weird stuff happens, but I don't think we're going to be seeing that go on with this team. So I don't root for them to win or lose, but let's just say, let's get a short stay in Charlotte, get this thing over with, turn the page, and get on with it. Now, before we talk about the athletic director and what Syracuse should and should not do there, who the new coach should be, and some other names that you have to consider in case your top target, for some reason, you cannot land at Syracuse, right? Before we get to that, I wanted to give Autry the chance to just kind of give his opinion on what had happened all year. Second straight losing season. So my question to Autry was, how do you assess I think you'll hear the full question in this clip here, but I said, you have the ACC tournament to come, but how do you assess what was a second straight losing regular season? And let's listen in to Autry not only talk about that, but touch on his whole 3-year tenure here at Syracuse and some ups and downs and difficulties that he faced.
ACC tournament coming, Brent, but how do you assess a second straight losing season?
I think the biggest thing when you ask that, and if I had to assess it, I would say it's been some progress. And when I say that, obviously not from the record standpoint, I think the progress has been made since I've been here just with the new dynamic of college basketball. And, we had to embrace that. And in embracing that, for me, each year, I think my first year, I think the whole league didn't embrace it, and we had a really good year. I thought the second year, the new college basketball, kind of people caught on, and last year, to be honest with you, we had some injuries, and we couldn't really compete at that level, and I thought this year we competed better. We were able to pull out a couple of games that we couldn't, win in my first 2 years. So again, it's been slow progress, not the progress that that we all want to see. But in this game right now, this is different. And everybody writes about it, and it's a real thing. And I think we were slowly progressing in the right direction. That's what I would say. I thought we were slowly progressing in the right direction. Obviously, in today's world, patience is very thin. So, that's it. So that's how I would say that.
I just don't know how to respond to that. What progress? You won one more game this year than last year. Now we'll see if they win a game or two in the ACC tournament. But a 14-19 team last year, you finished the regular season 15-16. Slow but sure progress. I guess technically you're right. What kind of progress are we talking about here? You did have a better roster. They did spend more money. They did kind of get it, what you have to do in the portal. And I know patience is thin these days, but that's the game. There are plenty of coaches that are playing that game and playing it better, and not all of them are, brimming out of the ears in NIL money. Josh Schertz at St. Louis, Brian Hodson at South Florida, other coaches. Travis Steele, I don't think, has a ton of NIL money. Just went undefeated, right? Good coaches are good coaches. At Syracuse, when you got that kind of roster, you got to make the tournament. They've not made the tournament and will not make the tournament for 5 straight years. That is an eternity. They have not been ranked since December of 2018. That is an eternity by Syracuse standards, right? What progress are we talking about here? You had 26 double-digit losses as a head coach. This was not one of them, but on your record, I can go on here, right? I don't think I really need to explain this to you. So I get that you kind of put him on the spot there, but that's part of the reason that Autry will no longer coach here. He could not handle that. He couldn't handle the public persona, the press conferences, and getting his message across about what the Orange Standard is, about what Level 5 is. He actually admitted that, by the way, in another clip. I don't have that clip, but in that press conference, admitted he should have explained it better. Basically, should have. I think the phrase he used was should have peeled it back more and let people know about that. I mean, it's too little, too late in so many ways, but I did want to give him the chance to kind of explain that. And that's what he said. A couple more from the locker room here. Adani Freeman asked pretty much the same question. Just how do you assess how the season went?
I don't know, man. I mean, things are tough. I mean, this year, last year I didn't really feel like I had that much of an impact because of the injury, but this year it just didn't go as planned for us, honestly. Like, we dropped some games, still fighting injury. I don't want to make excuses, but things just didn't go our way. I mean, it happens in sports, but all in all, I've never been the type to hang my head or quit on anything. We still have the ACC tournament starting on Tuesday. We can still make something happen, so I'm not going to throw in the towel until it's over for good.
Another one from Donnie here. He was bummed he couldn't get this one for JJ and the seniors that were honored today at senior.
Yeah, I mean, Red aside, like I was just feeling for the seniors, man. Like I wanted to win tonight for them. Like JJ, he's been here since I got here. He recruited me. Like I just wanted to win it for the seniors. Like that's really all I wanted, honestly. Like there's nothing else other than that. Like if I would have had 0 across the board tonight, we won for the seniors, I would have been content with that. I just really wanted to win for the seniors. That's really all I wanted.
Yeah, you heard at the beginning there, Red aside, because he was asked a question about Red Autry, but said Red aside, he wanted to win for the seniors here. He was asked directly about Red Autry and whether or not this could have been his last game as head coach, and he deferred on that, said next question. Nate King's here just on how Syracuse can get it going here. They still have a chance at the ACC tournament. I think they should just, opt out and take the ball and go home, but that's just me.
Man, I would say I'm not even really, now that it's over, I'm not even going to look back at it. I'm just focused on the conference tournament and, trying to figure out what we can do to, win some games and get some momentum in that, and then go from there, just trying to stay confident and keep the morale high.
What'll be the key for you guys to get to light that fuse and get going and get on a roll in Charlotte?
Key is just, I would say, staying positive mentally. That's probably the biggest thing. Like she was talking about with JJ. Like we all got to be positive in our own right. And we'll really need him, especially out there. So just sticking to it and working on your craft and trusting what the coaches got for us.
Nate Kings really came on in the second half of the season. They got it. It clicked. They kind of figured out what his role was. Nathan George was so up and down, had a great game tonight. There's no denying that when he was on his offensive game, but he was brought in to be the point guard and run the offense, not be the offense, and he ends up having to be the offense. More like a shooting guard than anything, right? So they did hit in the portal. William Kyle got a nice reception from the Dome today. Really contributed to this team, but just showed the ineptitude in the coaching, showed the ineptitude in the overall thing. When you brought in enough talent, spent enough money in the portal, that was not an issue. People that kept saying that, I just wanted to strangle you. Like, they spent money. They did what they had to do. They brought in the talent. They didn't have the coaching. It just comes down to it. How many situations we've talked about all year that happened in this game tonight, right? So it wasn't that they lacked NIL money. It's they brought in players that in the right situation with everybody dealing with the same thing would help this team. And in some cases certainly did. You didn't get out of JJ what you needed. I don't think you got out of Donnie what you needed all year long. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, Donnie was out for a stretch with the injury and slowly but surely came back, had some big numbers, had some big games, carried this team at times. But did you really get out of Donnie Freeman what this team needed? I mean, the answer to that is no with anybody, because ultimately it's the Bill Parcells line. You are what your record says you are. They're 15-16. They're a 15-16 basketball team, right? We can what if it all day. Houston game, Boston College game. Don't lose to Hofstra at home. Just go through them all. Just go through them all. You can what if it to death. Ultimately, over a long stretch of time, Autry gave the quote there about things over not only this season, but the last 3 years, just wasn't good enough. So, as we transition into what is going to be a pretty big week, I anticipate that Syracuse is going to name its athletic director next week. Could be as early as Monday. We shall see. Okay? That athletic director should be Nick Carparelli. Nick Carparelli, I've gone over this before. I'll say it again. Nick Carparelli is infinitely qualified to be an athletic director in 2026. He knows how to fundraise. He has dealing with sponsors and television networks and raising money in that capacity with bowl season, which oversees all the bowl games in college football and, of course, the college football playoff as well. He did this at Under Armour, one of the major sponsors of college sports. He has done this at the Big East Conference. He has done this in many capacities, right? He's a football guy. You need a football guy in place to be an athletic director in 2026. By the way, whatever that job is, Syracuse actually has an opportunity to kind of reformat this thing. They have two big openings in the AD department tonight. I say tonight because I saw Herm Frazier at the game. Remember, Herm Frazier just retired. So you can essentially kind of hire like a CEO role to fundraise, bring in money, do all the modern things that an athletic director has to do, and somebody else to kind of like look over the sports, like the traditional, like when I think of Jake Krauthamel as an athletic director back in the day. But Nick Carparelli is infinitely qualified to be an AD today with his resume. Step right in. He's got skin in the game as somebody that was a grad assistant coach at Syracuse. This is not important to me. I don't think you have to have a Syracuse degree to come in and run Syracuse. It doesn't hurt to have skin in the game, to have passion for it. He wants the job and would be good at the job. And of the candidates that this thing has kind of distilled down to, and of the candidates that are out there and we have heard are connected to the job, he is absolutely the best choice for the job. That's the name we should hear whenever it is, Monday or when it's announced. And then Nick Carparelli, in concert with John Wildhack, because this is going to time out this way, will be looking for a basketball coach. Let's say Syracuse loses on Tuesday. That's a 4:30 game against SMU. If they lose, I don't think it hurts you to put out the press release immediately after the game. If you want to give that coaching staff and that team some respect and some time to get home from Charlotte and take care. Look, it's a cold business sometimes. Boston College women's basketball lost to Syracuse in the regular season finale. The release was out 20 minutes later that Boston College had fired its coach, right? Today, St. Bonaventure, Coach Schmidt out at St. Bonaventure, doing a press conference after the game announcing his retirement. The reports were out there all day long from all the insiders out there, which is ironic because Woj, of course, is the GM now at St. Bonaventure. Know that he's out. The coach at Providence, they informed him before the season was over. You're out. Like, you can do this. They have not done that with Autry yet. Wildhack said they wanted to let it play out. However you do it. Tuesday, first thing Wednesday morning, whenever it is, when you lose, get it out there and get it done, clean break. The new athletic director, and that athletic director should be Nick Carparelli, has got to hit the ground running in concert with Wildhack. But there is a candidate out there that Syracuse should hone in on, and that is Brian Hodson, the coach at South Florida. Brian Hodson won over 40 games in 2 seasons at Central Arkansas, won the league there. They won the American Conference at South Florida. He is a great recruiter. He is a great roster builder. He is somebody who, look, I watched Red Autry in these press conferences and in other situations just fail to connect and fail to engage. Brian Hodson brings an energy and a connectivity and a message that I think Syracuse fans will embrace. And I think that's important. Social media era. You've got to be good on camera. This stuff matters. It's not why you hire a coach, but you want to connect with your fan base. You want to motivate your fan base. You know who's good at that? Fran Brown is good at that as the football coach at Syracuse. Brian Hodson has that. You know, one of the top recruits in college basketball, if not the top recruit, if I'm not mistaken, has South Florida in their top 4, getting ready to choose where they're going to go. Why is that? The coach at South Florida, through all the changes in college sports, NIL, transfer portal, collective bargaining coming, teams having to pay out via the house settlement, revenue share, through all this stuff. You know what still matters? A good freaking coach. And Brian Hodson is a great freaking coach who is on the rise. Target Brian Hodson. Do everything you can to get Brian Hodson, who, by the way, has the backing of the Lallies, of course, who are the biggest donors at Syracuse University, right? This is all playing out for you. So I guess my message to, not to come at you with a 100-mile-per-hour fastball right off the bat, Nick, but if Nick Carparelli gets the job, here's my message. Don't screw it up. That's your guy. Now, you got to do your due diligence on these things. You have to knock on Josh Ertz's door at St. Louis. You have to see what interest would be from a Travis Steele at Miami of Ohio, what an interest would be in Luke Murray, the assistant coach at UConn. You've got to have a backup plan. I get all that. I totally get all that. You notice who I'm not mentioning here? I'm not mentioning Mike Hopkins, and I'm not mentioning Jerry McNamara, because I firmly believe that Syracuse needs a clean break. This keep it in the family stuff, we've done that for 50 years. 47 under Jim Boeheim, last 3 under Autry. It is time for a clean break. Brian Hodson is from Western New York. He coached at Fredonia. He coached at the University at Buffalo. believe he also coached at Jamestown Community College way back when he was starting off as well. Brian Hodson gets Syracuse basketball, and from what I understand, wants the job. Okay? He gets the culture. All these people that say, you got to get the culture. You know who says that? Former players. Former players who puff out their chests, and you have to appease them to be accepted into their little club. I'm sorry. You need someone to come in and change the culture at Syracuse basketball, not someone who gets the culture. Not that understanding what the culture is isn't important, but I think Brian Hodson gets it. I think he gets what the culture is at Syracuse, where it stands, what the program is. He doesn't need a history lesson, nor does the new coach. You know what you need? Someone who freaking wins. Someone who recruits, which still matters. Someone who knows how to work the portal. Someone who's going to have financial backing from, it would appear, the biggest donors at Syracuse or whoever, right? The money will come. It happened with Fran Brown. It'll happen with Brian Hodson. Syracuse needs to lock in on Brian Hodson, South Florida, as their next coach, but keep some people in mind, of course, if for some reason you can't get that over the finish line. So if we come out of this with Mike Haney as the chancellor, as Nick Carparelli as the AD, and as Brian Hodson as the head coach, now we're cooking with gas here. And Syracuse would have to be given a lot of credit for lining that up and doing it in an expedited process, by the way, which is not always their forte up on the Hill. Transformative month. Haney, Carparelli, Hodson. You got that. You got something there, okay? Which I want to address this briefly. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I do want to say this. I do not think Syracuse should hire Heather Lyke as their new athletic director. I have nothing against Heather Lyke personally. I just think there are better candidates out there. There are too many things that have come up that makes me say, you are better than this. You can find a better candidate, okay? There are ups and downs to what Heather Lyke did at Pitt. Tonight, we watched Syracuse play Pittsburgh. You know who hired Jeff Capel and gave Jeff Capel an extension at Pittsburgh? Heather Lyke. The women's basketball coach at Pittsburgh got fired. They lost 17 games this year in the ACC. There's currently a lawsuit against that coach for some improper things, improper relationships, some things that were said. That's 6 former players, or it could be current players, but 6 players are suing the coach there. Not good. Heather Lyke's fundraising track record at Pitt, the Victory Heights Project, if you're familiar with that, they tried to raise $240 million. They eventually did because they had to take out a loan to do it and build it out. And this was a facility mostly for Olympic sports. She raised $12 million in trying to do that. Heather Lyke was able to impress Ken Severud. And my colleagues, Chris Carlson and Donna DeTota, wrote a story about Heather Lyke. They interviewed Heather Lyke, an exclusive story, which I would highly encourage you to read, whether you like Heather Lyke or not, whether you think she should either be the new AD or be as far away from the job as possible. It doesn't hurt to educate yourself on the person that you're talking about, which I have done, not only through what my colleagues have done. I've talked to people that covered her in Pittsburgh, that worked with her in Pittsburgh, and the universal conclusion they all came to, every one of them, and I talked to at least 6 or 7 people, was you can do better. You can do better. There are better candidates. Can Heather Lyke stay on in some kind of administrative role that she's been in, given the experience that she has? Like I said, you can reformat this thing and change it and have somebody that's essentially looking over the sports. I think if she was in the same role she's in now, fine. But she should not be the new athletic director. She should not be any higher or be given any sort of promotion or come out of this with more authority over Syracuse athletics. That's just my opinion. If you're asking me to assess the candidates that are out there, you can do better than Heather Lyke. That's just my opinion. I don't know why it's centered in on somebody who's been around for a year, essentially just kind of like, assessing things and how they feel they can do a better job. I and you can see what Heather Lyke did at Pittsburgh and say, I'll pass. It's why I'm not talking about Mike Hopkins as a basketball coach candidate either. I'll pass. I like Mike Hopkins a lot. I watched Mike Hopkins at 7 years at Washington make 1 NCAA tournament. And yes, they had injuries and they had academic situations and didn't quite have the facilities there that you would have at Syracuse. Maybe he would do better here with financial backing, with better facilities, second time around. Get somebody on the upswing who I know is coaching well right now, like Brian Hodson, as opposed to somebody you hope does better in the second term because He gets it. He gets the culture. He's a Syracuse guy. Why am I doing the air quotes? That's a great Saturday Night Live skit, right? No. Get someone who wins. Again, you don't have to get the culture. You got to change the culture. Mike Haney has been around for the last 20 years at Syracuse and will get that opportunity to do that from within. I think in that case, that's a smart decision. Nick Carparelli could come in, who knows Syracuse, is passionate about Syracuse, but could come in from a different perspective business-wise, financially, and what the modern title of athletic director is, and do that. Brian Hodson fits all those boxes. The boxes that you heard Adrian Autry struggle with in that clip that I played from tonight's press conference. Hodson is acing the test on all of these things right now. It's all laid out here. It's all laid out. They got to move fast, and it's going to go quickly, and your head's going to be spinning. But that's what's coming, right? They name the new AD early next week, as I anticipate they will, and then the coaching job could be open as soon as Tuesday night. Once Syracuse loses, giddy up. Now, if you do want a Brian Hodson, you've got to ride out that season, right? You've got to wait for South Florida season to end, or if it's Shirts, or again, whoever it is, a lot of these coaches, you better be waiting for. Syracuse better not hire somebody soon. You better hire somebody when they lose in the NCAA tournament. That's a current head coach that's kicking ass wherever they are. That's who you need to hire. And that's what's coming. It's going to be fascinating, guys. It's going to be fascinating, to say the least. And, of course, we'll keep you updated here on the podcast and on the Syracuse Sports Insider text line. Our insiders were fired up during this game and have some thoughts on the broader things going on here with Syracuse athletics as well. We'll hit a couple of the secret voicemails as well. But we'll lead it off with Donnie P., who says, what a fitting end tonight. Can't even beat an 11-19 Pitt team. I'm so glad the season's over. Can we opt out of the ACC tournament? I mean, why not? I said that last year, and I got yelled at by a member of the coaching staff. Who wouldn't want to opt out of this thing now? Al S., imagine a half-court offense where Donnie gets the ball. Syracuse actually anticipates and runs plays off the double and triple teams that he draws, yet Donnie and the team look totally uncoached. We saw that throughout this game. They don't know how to handle when Donnie Freeman gets double teamed. Like, that is a basic thing. That is your best player. He's going to get double teamed, and they don't know what to do. They're just looking around. Oh, did you guys know that could happen? Robbie P. says, a frustrating situation on the Hill. It seems like we peaked in our effort against Pitt in the first game. A change needs to be made at head coach. We need an AD who can also get UNC Duke level type of money in the NIL situation. I don't know if you're going to get that high, but Syracuse is certainly in a position where they spent $8 million on this roster. Okay. You can spend, that's not what the problem was. Alex Klein found the players. Adrian Autry couldn't coach him. Seth B. At this point, all I can do is shrug. I didn't think they would win, and they again found ways to lose in overtime. One last game. Then we see who the next AD and coach is. Nick Carparelli, Brian Hodson. Bing, bing, winning combo. Harrison T., what a brutal end to JJ's career. That guy's psyche is totally destroyed. It felt like this team just had no fortitude by the end of the year. That's coaching. You know, again, I'm not rooting for him to lose because I don't do that, but I'll root for JJ to have one last strong game. It sucks that he did not score a point in his final home game. Man, that's cruel. That is the universe just with a cruel snarl at JJ Starling. 0 for 7 tonight. Gets put back in the game with 4.3 seconds in overtime to throw the inbounds pass. What? So I hope JJ has a great game on Tuesday. I really do. I just go out on a high note. Frankie F. says, losing to a terrible Pitt team just sums up the entire season. I feel really bad that I've checked out and turned towards the coaching search, but it's hard to care when it feels like the team. Look, the coaching search can energize the fan base. It can get people reinvested, quite literally, in some senses, right? That's where we're at. This thing needs an energy boost, not only the men's basketball position, but the athletic director. If you hire Heather Lyke with how much angst there is out there and how many people, whether they're right or wrong, People have already determined they do not want her as the athletic director. If she got the job, I can only be fair and I will judge her on results, just like everybody else, right? But why would you go into this just like basically pointing at everybody saying, you're wrong? You're wrong. You don't know what we see. And I saw a record at Pitt. There are better candidates. You're free to prove me. No, actually, you're not free to prove me wrong. Don't try to prove me wrong on this one. Just hire somebody better. Just hire somebody better, right? I think if we're just looking at this objectively, there are better candidates out there. She's made it this far. Good for her. That's as far as she should go in terms of having a higher position. So that's what people like Harrison and Seth and some of the comments that we've highlighted here are talking about. Mike Haney was a great move. That got people's attention, that energized people. Like, okay, you've got 2 more chances to do that. Think about this. Think how you can just flip the script and get people fired up again for 3 of the most front-facing positions at the entire university, let alone the front porch of the university, the athletic department, the thing that markets you better than anything. If you bring in the right people, and I think those are the 3 right people to bring in, think of how you got people on your side like that and going forward with you into that proverbial battle, into that fictional battle, if you will, in a day and age of what college sports is today. A little bit of a plug. I had Jim Cavall on my podcast on Friday. So that's up on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get this podcast. Jim Cavall is from athletes.org. And I had Jim on to have a conversation about what the ideal athletic director candidate is. I didn't want to get into names and candidates, just what are the qualifications of a premier athletic director in 2026 and beyond. He knocked it out of the park. Okay. I had nothing to do with it. I just asked a few questions and let him cook. The feedback I got from that podcast, from our insiders and from people that just reached out, was terrific. Go listen to Jim. Hire somebody that fits that qualification at AD, who will get the right coach, and the right coach is Brian Hudson at South Florida. Let's see. Did we do this one from Frankie? I believe we did do this one. Yes, we did. This is from Randy, who says, appropriate in this nonsense season with this game. 2 lame coaches, 2 crappy teams, and a partridge in a pear tree. From Steve, who says, this team makes way too many mistakes, as we've said all year. Bad passes, lazy passes, not knowing where the shot clock is. Coaching change is obvious, but players have to take some responsibility. They do, but it flows from the top. The players play because of how they're coached, right? I blame the coaching more than the players. From Eddie P., who says, some terrible possessions down the stretch for Syracuse in what was certainly a winnable game, a common thread that seems to have run continuously throughout the season, ultimately sealing the fate of Adrian Autry. To the secret voicemail line we go, and being a Syracuse Sports Insider gives you direct access to the secret voicemail line. Let's hear voicemail number 1.
Hey, Brent. Not that Jim B. I think today's game just kind of sums up the whole season. You know, we see flashes of what this team could have been when they put the runs together and make stops. However, you know, at the end of the day, they lose for all the same things we've been talking about all year. Everything, you know, the lack of offense, the turnovers, the not getting rebounds. It's just, you know, this game again just kind of sums up what the entire year's been. What I would call a low basketball IQ game, and again results in another loss. Ultimately, I think everyone will just be happy when the season's over. We can start a new chapter for Cuse basketball. Fingers crossed, though they don't screw up the AD and the new coach hire. Happy the lacrosse team won today, getting wins this year in lacrosse, especially on the D1 men's side of it, especially on the road, is good. Been really impressed with the defense so far this year. They're really playing well as a unit. The bigger concern seems to be with the offense. They seem a little disjointed, sometimes loose with the ball. Hopefully they can round into shape as the season goes, and we can be talking about them on Memorial Day weekend. Thanks, Brent, for all the coverage. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you for your great voicemails all season long, by the way. We really appreciate it, my friend, with 1 game to go. So we'll see at the very least 1 more game to go. Hopefully not too long of a stretch in the ACC tournament, because what's the point? Just get this thing over with, man. Voicemail number 2.
What an unbelievable display. You put in Zephyr. Zephyr's sitting on the sideline, and instead of take JJ out, you take out the game's leading scorer in Nate George. Unbelievable. Listen, that was proof to me that I, myself, am a better head coach than Adrian Autry. I'll take $30 an hour, guys. Sign me up. Like, what are you doing? Just absolutely embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. Take out the game's leading scorer and leave JJ in there, who is JJ Simmons would have been better than JJ Starling today. You'd think Adrian Autry would have learned something by now. What is the Syracuse University? The school has to be embarrassed. Like, he got an education at Syracuse University and makes decisions like that? Buddy, listen, I'll take $30 an hour to be your head coach next year because I know for a fact I'm a better coach than Adrian Autry. Thanks for taking my call.
Jake, always great to hear from you. I hope you had terrific snacks today. And $30 an hour, man. Don't sell yourself short, and don't give them any ideas either. There's people up there now. They're like, "Oh, we can do that. We can hire somebody for $30 an hour." Hey, come on! Don't give them any ideas now. Brian Hodson's buyout, by the way, is $2 million. That is nothing. Come on, that's couch cushion money for certain people that could pay that buyout. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, not that Jim B. And thanks to you, our great Syracuse Sports Insiders, for your terrific insight, as always. As mentioned, guys, it's going to be busy, okay? New athletic director coming soon. New head basketball coach coming soon, albeit the coaching search will occur first as soon as Syracuse loses next week in the ACC tournament. Like, it is on. So we will be all over that on the pod. Syracuse Lacrosse. Win today over Hopkins. Defense is locking it down. Jimmy McCool is just cold as ice in that net. Sorry for the pun. Offense has to clean some things up, but the talent is there. We're going to start doing more regularly scheduled lacrosse post-game shows. I will keep you updated on that on the text line when we're going to be doing that, because now the basketball conflicts are running out. The Syracuse women's basketball team, the next time they play will be in the NCAA tournament. More than likely in the 8-9 game, which will then have them play a number 1 seed in the next round, probably UConn, which, why does Syracuse always have to play UConn in the NCAA tournament? It just works out that way. But we are going to do women's basketball post-game shows in the NCAA tournament. So stay tuned for that. Syracuse football starts spring ball soon. We will be potting and keeping you updated to that on the text line. See how busy it's going to be? I mean, it's already busy with what's going on the field. Now add in an AD search, or the naming of the AD. We've been talking about the AD search and the search for a new basketball coach. Sleep is overrated, my friends. What is it that John Rothstein says? We sleep in May. There you go. We don't sleep till June because we're hoping the Syracuse men's lacrosse team makes it to the Final Four, right? So we can cover an exciting season like that. But we sleep in June around here. Until then, we will keep it rolling on the Syracuse Sports Podcast. Our live post-game shows for basketball certainly coming to an end, but we will be with you Tuesday night, win or lose, after the Orange take on SMU in the ACC tournament, and more to come. So keep it locked here. Please subscribe on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get your pods, so you can keep up with the Syracuse Sports Podcast. And, of course, become a Syracuse Sports Insider, where we'll keep you updated all the time. Sign up today. It's just $3.99 a month to become a Syracuse Sports Insider to get direct text message access to me anytime. My thanks to you for listening and watching this version of Syracuse Sports Live, Syracuse Basketball Postgame, presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. My name is Brent Axe. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take a deep breath. It's about to be busy, friends. We sleep in June.